introduction. Thank you.
Well, we are very excited about the subjects, and without further ado, I'm just gonna get my tea. I hope everybody has their own teas as well. And I would like to start with Dr. Arezou and tell us about what we will be talking as next subject.
Hi, everyone. Well, good to have everyone here and good to see some of your faces because I actually miss interacting with you guys, and it's really good to have you. What we want to do is just, take a little light talk and talk about the challenges people face working from home. And not just the challenges people facing from home, but in managerial or supervisor role, it's a challenge to manage yourself from home, it's a challenge to make people productive working from home. And we just want to share some of the tips that, it's related to people's productivity and also some psychological or mental health issues that we need to consider for people working from home. And, hopefully we can overcome the challenges that has been thrust upon us to work from home without any prior experience. To start with, working remotely is, can add stress to what already stress you have for work. What does that mean? Like, work already has stress. I mean, none of us go to work and, it's kind of Disneyland every day, except me. But you have challenges at work, you have challenges with your due dates, you have challenges achieving goals, supervisors, managing employee relations. Now, added to that, it's a challenge of working at home because you're not familiar with it. And anytime change is a part of something, people it throws some confusion and added element of stress. Another challenge that you face with employees is if you're managing multiple employees, different ages, different preferences, not everyone is as technologically savvy. Not everyone is using, comfortable using computers. For example, myself, I do not like using the camera. They say the camera adds 10 pounds and I already have an add the 30. So that just gives me a panic attack that my double chin probably is talking louder than me. So, not everyone is comfortable, but these are all, little things that are added elements of stress. And because this happens so suddenly, we don't have the training. I mean, how many of us did receive training to work remotely? Not many of us, not many of us were told how to use these platforms. Not many of us were taught how to use these platforms. So not only now we're asked to do it, we're asked to be productive while doing it. So, and doing that, before we got, face-to-face interactions, but now we don't even have that. It's very easy to read someone's reaction or know if someone's having a bad day or so on, looking at them. But if you don't have that and you're just kind of robotically performing tasks that you're not even sure what to do or how to do, how challenging would that be? So today we want to just talk about those challenges and hopefully give people some insightful tips going ahead. So the lack of supervision. So what do you think, in terms of lack of face-to-face supervision, what are some of those challenges that we face? Well, supervisor may feel that because if you're used to seeing employees work, for example, you can supervise them, you can walk and see what they're doing and so on. It becomes stressful for managers because they're not going to be able to see how far the work has gone. Okay, they can't see if the employees are working as hard or efficiently as they should, or if they're, if what they're going to turn out at the end, it's up to par and it's, up to the job and based on, what your senior management has requested from you. So that's another element of stress. And at the same time, employees are going to have an issue because, first of all, they don't communicate with you as often because they don't see you. And when they don't have that level of communication, then their goals, their vision, their deliverables are not as clear. And again, that can impact their performance. And employees, a lot of times, and I think many of us are feeling that right now, they feel that the managers are out of touch in terms of what they're asking them to do. Remember, anything that I'm pretty sure most of us are watching TV now. When you look at, children being at home running around, not having enough computers at home, having to teach children and so on. And they feel like they're supposed to do all these things with the lack of training, with the lack of technology savviness, and they're being asked to do all these things, and the employers are not feeling with them. And that again adds to another element of stress, which adds to the mental health issues that employees may face during this time. So I think Dr. Juliet is going to tell us a little bit more about that aspect of it in the next section.
Well, thank you, Arezou. So, I mean,
Juliet, are you on?
I'm on. Can you hear me? Or am I muted?
Yes.
So, I mean, when we're talking about social isolation and stress, I think a lot of people have already been experiencing that themselves. And so, but then there's a lot more stress for different types of people. It depends on how, how connected you were at work, or how connected you were with other people, or maybe you're the person that really likes to stay at home. But, this, as Arezou was saying, is that we weren't really prepared to have that kind of lifestyle, and that one day someone is going to tell you you're not going to be going to work and you're going to have to do a lot of things in isolation. So stress is increasing, and as we said, that employees are missing a lot of informal social interaction. For a lot of people, that social interaction mattered a lot. For me, for example, I'm an extrovert, so to have someone say to me, you got to teach online, or you have to do teletherapy now, everything is like all isolation for me. It was hard for me to adjust to it, and I'm sure that a lot of people, even if they were stressed because of COVID-19, they're even more stressed now because they're not having the social the social interaction. They're not going to the office. They're not able to even separate themselves and being able to get away from home and just be in the office. So for me, when I went to the office, I didn't have to worry about home. I have to worry about putting everyone in a schedule. This is my workspace, and I thought better, and I even produced much better when I was in the office because that's my space. But a lot of people don't have that. So this lack of belonging and connection, for a lot of people, probably now that it means a lot more to you than it was meaning before. So before, maybe we took advantage of I wish I stayed home. I know I've said that a lot of times, that I wish I stayed home. I wish if they can just give me a pause, because all my life is all about working different places, doing so many different things that I do in my life. And suddenly, so I didn't really, even though I enjoyed the belonging, but I wished if I had this pause. And now that I have this pause, I feel like it really does puts you in a different mindset. Now you got to really think about how I can get that, thrive. The other day I was telling my students that, we are innately brought to this world to be with other people. And there's a lot of statistic out there that people that live in isolation die younger and earlier than individuals who are with other people. So there's a lot of research done where people have lived 17, 80 years, and most all of them say that they do that because they've been connected to other people. And the individuals that have always been alone or have lost all their support system, they tend to become more depressed. So now we have to find a way where we can feed this thirst of belonging, but now we got to do it virtually, which we'll talk about it later. Now I've mentioned a little bit about extrovert. I'm an extrovert, and I know a lot of you are probably extrovert. So extrovert employees are probably suffering more than introvert. Not that introverts don't want to be with people, and I think a lot of people misunderstand them as shy, but they're not. Introvert people, they're okay with having their own space. If you told them to sit at home and work, they'd be all right, because even at work, maybe they didn't really mingle a lot with other colleagues. They just probably stayed in their office and did their work on their own and left. So they didn't really attend a lot of company gatherings or any receptions. People, they want to be with people. They get their energy by being with other people. And so they're going to suffer from isolation a lot more, because now they got to change. Think about it. If you're in actual gatherings, I do all of these things. Why? Because being with people gives me that energy. I don't, regret it. While an introvert is they got to prepare mentally to be in these whatever social, gatherings. But for an extrovert, no. But now we got to talk about, what is an extrovert going to do? How are they going to find opportunities to be able to connect with individuals remotely, so that way they don't lose that sense of connection that they need and that we all need innately, but extroverts even more. Now, we all have to think about it. Like, some people are like, well, it's nice. I mean, of course, I've adapted now and I love doing virtual stuff, but we got to understand that there are a lot of variables that it's increasing stress. Not only that, I have to learn online teaching, or other people have to learn how to, just like Arezou was saying, that we have to learn how to use these like different mechanisms of how to do virtual. There are a lot of things that now we have because everyone is home. So a mom or a parent has to care for their kids. Now, I see with my students, for example, trying to find a quiet space in the house. Like, I never thought that I really needed a whole room where I can close the door and be able to have this quiet space so I can do my work. And a lot of times people don't have that. I mean, I know with some of my patients, they're like, they can't even do teletherapy all the time because they don't have that confidential or private place. It's a small apartment, or even if it's an apartment, one floor, there isn't a quiet space in the house where they can have access to internet and be able to sit down and think about the tasks and be able to produce what they need to produce for their managers. And then lack of access. I know that now internet is probably bombarded, so the speed, sometimes we think about speed, we think about data availability, are they really sophisticated in using, which, we mentioned. All of these are variables that stress you. It's like I mean, even with me, like when they told me I have to do online classes, I was like, what? I'm not even on IT savvy. I don't know anything about any program. I do podcasts, but it's Zoom, but it's not much. And here I was stressing, and I was telling my student that I didn't sleep a couple of days because I'm like, okay, how do I do that? But once I got it, then I was like, okay, it's not as bad. But remember, there's the anticipation of all these stressors, like how can I take care of the kids? Where can I sit quietly so I can do all of the things that I need to do in private? How can I manage schooling or homeschooling that a lot of parents right now have to deal with, because we need to be able to monitor their progress. Food preparation. Now, we are one thing is like, we're lucky if you have, a domestic help, then someone is preparing it. But just imagine if you didn't really have any domestic help, and then you got to also think about doing the food processing or the food preparation, or what are you going to feed these kids, and then get back to your virtual meetings or whatever. So, and quarantine, I don't know, but it seems like all of this has taught us to live life differently, or even to think about different aspects of it. It's given us time to think about ourselves. What is our priorities? How much work can we really do virtually? What is more important? We have to think about elderlies, and are they, and their safety and their health. And if you have family members that are already, have been infected with coronavirus, all of these things really impact our stress and how we can take care of everybody, and also be able to produce as employees, and even as a manager. Like, how are you going to be able to supervise all of this when you've got this whole list of things that you got to think about?
Yeah, so now that we talked about a whole bunch of issues that people are facing, and I know, personally, and talking to my friends, there are multitude. What we want to do is share with you some guidelines, some little tips that actually makes this process a little easier on yourself as a manager and on your employees. Again, creating that consistency always helps, because when the change comes, thrusts you in wind, and you don't know what's happening, and all your danger sensors are high. Consistency kind of quashes that and alleviates that and takes that away. So we want to share with you some of the tips that may actually help you and your employees to navigate these hard waters a little more smoothly. The first thing that I want to talk about with you, it's like establishing daily check-ins that are predictable. Like, for example, you connect with the people that you're managing on a daily basis. Now, how you want to do that, if it's a phone call, if it's an email, if it's a video call, that depends on you and your preferences and the ability of, what you can do. But a couple of things you need to keep in mind, okay? First of all, the employee's comfort. So we just talked about, the childcare. We just talked about, lack of access to technology, because during the day, some of the parents are sharing their computers and so on, because kids are at school during the day. So make sure that with each employee that you are going to connect, it's actually as a mutually convenient time. Don't just think about, okay, I'm available at 4 and expect everyone that's going to be. Just make sure you're considerate and considering their timing in your daily check-ins. So have a candid discussion with each employee or person you're supervising, and let them know if you're connecting with them. Okay, I'm going to connect with you at 4 o'clock. Is that good for you? Okay, and whatever medium of communication you choose, then make that, make it a routine so that it puts in some perspective into what they need to do, puts in some consistency, and also provide for them different options of connecting. Okay, whether it be a telephone call, video call. We just talked about the extroverts. Okay, they actually feed on people's reactions. I'm an extrovert. The most thing I miss during this crisis, not just work, because work is happening in the periphery. It hasn't stopped. But I actually miss touching people and looking at their faces, okay? Even though a lot of times I was just like, I wish I was home because everyone's getting on my last nerves. But I actually do miss seeing people. So if you know employees that thrive on, extrovertness and they pick up energy, just have a quick 10-minute chat with them on a video call, and that should boost their productivity. It has actually, it's a proven fact that, when they get that energy, they're more productive and they want to do better work. Also, what you need to do is establish rules of engagement. Again, one thing that is putting this whole process into flux, it's the lack of clarity. Okay, we're all in uncharted waters and we don't know where we're going.
Hello.
Okay. Yes, we don't know where we're going. So establish rules of engagement. And what do I mean by rules of engagement? Establish what is the outcome, and what are the outcomes you're looking for? How can they deliver those outcomes? And set those outcomes in a smart way. And by smart, I mean a specific, measurable, and so on, so that given their limitations of access, given the limitation of training, it's realistic. Okay, don't expect them to do something impossible given the situation, given the time limit. So yes, establish rules of engagement, but actually be very realistic doing so. Okay, for example, we're going to get started at my university teaching remotely, and what I recommended that we actually give people some training before we tell them, okay, go log into, for example, Zoom and start teaching. No, we need to alleviate some of the issues that they have. We need to actually teach them how to log in before, before you ask them, you need to teach them the alphabet before you ask the essay to be written, and those are some of the things that you need to take into consideration when you are talking, to people. Also provide for remote social interaction. Meaning that, work as a society is an informal bonding, belonging situation. When you go to work, you actually do have a support system. I know personally, and for everybody that has worked with me, I do have, my office is a diwaniya where people come and we exchange ideas and we actually talk. And I know how's everyone doing. And it's very interconnected. It's very supportive. We're all there for each other. We have such very close bonded culture that I miss that the most. And the people I talk to and I work with, we miss that interaction. So whereas we've missed that a lot, we can provide some opportunities for remote social interaction, meaning we're not just on a Zoom for work. We can put a 1 hour a week, just do something what we're doing, just fun and tea, just talk about how's everyone doing, provide for that venue, that you don't lose that interconnectedness, you don't lose that belonging. And in terms of organizational psychology, you don't lose the belonging to the organization, because, it's easy to forget, human beings adapt, and it's easy to forget where you were belonging before. So it's much important for us to be connected and remind people who were they connected to and why did they work for this organization. Why were they doing this work in the first place? Yes, we all need a paycheck, of course, but we stick to places that we work with because we feel connected to it. We feel we make a difference. So, providing that social remote even opportunity allows for people to still keep that connection going. And Juliette's going to talk about, some of the other issues in regards to keeping, mental well-being for employees. And from there on, we take your questions after that.
So, I mean, as we said that a lot of, and we just mentioned they offer emotional support. I think support is very, very important, especially for people right now, even psychologically, because things are very unpredictable. People don't know if they can travel. They don't know what's going to happen to their employment. Are they going to be laid off? So there's a lot of questions that are not, no one can really answer. I mean, how long are we going to be in curfew? Don't forget that also they're hearing a lot of rumors. Oh, we might be on full curfew. We might be this. You go on these like social platforms and everyone is like trying to tell you, no, it's going to happen and this is going to happen, or it's the end of the world, or, just like I tell my patients all the time, you got to go to the right sources. You can't just be listening to anyone that wanted to get followers on their Instagram and then they give you this thing to scare you. And these rumors really affect and impact. So they're not only impacting me and you, and they're impacting your employees. So you have to understand that all the things that's happening and this unpredictability. See, before we had control, a little bit of control of what we're doing. Definitely we're not in control of our future, but we are in control of the idea that, I know I can go to work. I know I can produce. I know that my job was safe. And now people are like not sure. People are scared that they might not have a job. They are scared that they might not be able to leave the house. They're worried about how are they going to get food or groceries, especially for expats, like, having all these like understanding. So the employee are under more stress than usual. They're working from home, which adds a lot of stress. And as we said, extrovert more, but it's just working from home. I remember that, whenever like my colleagues and I, we were told that we need to work online, like a lot of them didn't even, I didn't have my USB for my slides. I don't have a lot of the paperwork. Who would have known that the last time I leave, I won't go back. So trying to like get all that organized and, just like Arezou was saying, is like someone saying to me, oh, well, just go on Zoom. Well, okay, well, I don't know how to do any of this stuff. It does give you stress. So you have to remember, we're working from home. We're stressed. Are we going to have a job? Am I going to lose my job? Am I going to be able ever to get out of this situation? This sense of claustrophobic where we're just staying at home and we're feeling, emotionally charged. You just want to see the sun. You just want to be out. So what, you got to be able to give permission to your employees to talk about that. The first thing you need to do when you're starting, and these like weekly meetings are very, very important. First thing you start and say, well, how is everyone doing? What is it that is on your mind today? We don't have to go into work right away as much as like checking in and saying, if they have doubts about the future. And I think a lot of times managers, they think that they have to have the answer for their employee. Believe me, I'm a psychologist. I don't have the answer either. So when my patient says, well, what should I do? What do you think about the future? Do you think this is going to happen? I don't know the answer. And it's good that they hear from a doctor that I don't have the answer. What I know is that the only thing I know is the here and now. And I know at this moment, we just got to think of today. So listening carefully is so important because they probably are not telling their family members because everyone is under the same stress or anxiety. So they don't have anyone to listen to them. So giving them an opportunity or a platform just to say, how are you feeling? I know it's probably, difficult for you. You're probably worried about your job. If you have anything to give them some comfort that they're not going to lose their job, or, that we don't know. It's good. It's good to see a manager or people that are like an authority to also feel unpredictability, and they are also scared. When I told my student I'm anxious, I don't know how to use this. This is my first day. I didn't feel like, oh, I'm a PhD. I can't say that. I felt like, no, they can help me, and they did help me a lot. And they told me how to do certain things. You got to provide support. The only people that they are seeing, besides that they're seeing their support from their family members, is that they're seeing you. You're the manager. They're seeing colleagues. So having that Zoom meeting or whatever meeting you have, everyone is on there. Everyone is sharing their experience about what they think. How can they, survive? Everyone giving us a little bit tip of what works for you, what works for this person. I think this is really, really helpful. And definitely the last thing I want to share before we can go into your question is this self-care. Self-care is, I'm sure you see that a lot of on Instagram. You're probably reading about a lot of things. One of the biggest thing I encourage everyone to have is routine, because a sense of routine gives us a sense of self-control. it also gives us an ability to feel accomplished. So when you've got, routine that you wake up at a certain time and then you eat breakfast at a certain time, exercise is so important in your routine. Every day, people should be walking for half an hour. I mean, before curfew, before 5 o'clock, go walk outside or have a gym or do something. So, and sleeping is so important. Just recently, I was reading an article that says that, if you really want to increase your immune system, which is something we're talking a lot about for people that want to stay healthy, that even people that do have, get the coronavirus, people with high immunity tend to survive it a lot more than people with low immunity. And one of the things that they've discovered is sleeping. People that are sleeping good hours, they're sleeping uninterrupted sleep, they're sleeping on a regular time, like if you sleep at 12 and you wake up at 10, then these are individuals that are already working on increasing their immune system. And nutrition. I know this is very difficult because all of us are sitting around, and because we're home, the refrigerator is closer to us, so we tend to be eating. But we have to make sure that there are greens in our food, there are like nuts in our food, there's some protein, there's some vegetables, fruits. And even with our kids, like we have to make sure that our kids also understand that exercise, they should be on an exercise, they should be walking around, they should be eating healthy with you. And because the more weight you weigh, and then, of course, what food gives us more comfort is carbs and chocolate. So the more you eat of that, the more your serotonin decreases, which means that you are going to feel more depressed and anxious. So if you don't want to feel that way, you got to be able to monitor your routine and your sleep and your nutrition, because ultimately that's what's going to help you survive these difficult times. So these are all under self-care. Like, there's no salon, so we got to do our hair. We, do manicure, pedicure at home, do, being able, I mean, some people are staying in their pajamas all day, and that is unhealthy. I know we're home, and I know that we could stay in our pajamas, but imagine, thank God I am teaching online, so I always have to wake up. And if I don't do online, I do teletherapy, so I have to see people. Thank God, because it keeps me going. I would have been in my pajamas all day, but I know I have to get up. I have to put my clothes on. I have to put makeup a little bit. I have to at least do something with my hair. All of these things, when I'm done, I feel good. And so you guys have to imagine, staying in your pajamas, watching just Netflix all day or eating junk all day. It's only going to decrease your norepinephrine and serotonin, which ultimately is going to make you more distressed. And we're trying to move away from distress and more into the healthy stress, not the unhealthy stress. So I hope this was helpful. And now I think we're going to take questions.
Yes, ladies, anyone. Thank you. Like, I was mesmerized listening to you. I even couldn't interrupt with any questions because I personally had a lot of questions myself as well. But it's just between us in here, just a small group of people. I'm not going to tell you how many here. But tell us what your personal tricks. I know, Dr. Juliet, you were talking about like your own daily routine. Yes. But I want to hear from Dr. Arezou as well. And then I will also share my little trick. But Dr. Juliet, you have to promise that you don't do any analysis on me, not at least.
I can give you therapy for free.
After I tell you what my solution for that is.
Okay.
For me, personally, I always have a board, like a whiteboard, that I write down my daily tasks. So I have one at work and I have one at home, luckily. So my trick to staying regimented in the work I need to do, because most of my work is deadlined, I have a whiteboard and I write on it what is it that I need to do, and I just follow it meticulously. I actually have added an exercise, because usually I don't exercise. I know it's bad to say, but I'm not a very exercise freaky person. I'm not crazy about physical activity, but I've actually added like this YouTube thing, Walk at Home, which is a half an hour rigorous walk exercise. So I've added that just to keep my sanity and, still be able to fit into my pants going back to work, hopefully soon. So that has been, but staying structured. Basically what I would say is stay structured. I still have a structure. I have to wake up. I have to do certain things, the only thing I would say I really have to work on is getting my sleeping pattern in order. As Dr. Julia just said, it's important, and I don't sleep enough, but I need to do that. But in terms of staying on schedule and trying to keep it going and get out of my pajamas, I have a daily schedule. I stick to it vigorously.
Wonderful. So, you know, for how long I've been working, and every morning I have to be in the office at 9 o'clock. But to be able to go to the office, you have to dress up. But one thing, it really doesn't matter what you're wearing. You can wear jeans, you can wear a t-shirt, you can wear like a suit, doesn't matter. But to be able to get out of the house, you have to wear your shoes. So there are days that if I need to be proactive and productive, I put my shoes on. It could be anything. It could be my sneakers, it could be my Converse, it could be my high heels because I miss my heels. I have to wear my shoes on to be able to do that. To be able to do this webinar, I put my shoes on.
I do too. I do too.
So this is the only thing that works for me.
Yeah, makes sense. You're healthy. It's okay. You're normal.
Thank you.
It's true. I guess I never thought about it. We didn't put shoes on. It's true. And heels. And we're going to forget about what it feels like to be wearing normal shoes.
Yeah, shoes. If I need to write something, my shoes needs to get on. You know, it's the only thing that works for me before I sit in front of my computer. Maybe the attendees can share some of their tricks on the comment side so that we can also read it from here as well. But we talked about some rules of engagement, you know, especially with extroverts and about the introverts. So like what other things that you can do for them? Because yes, we are living in the age of technology, but what are the other tricks? Because we have to cover both characteristics. And like in my team, I have all these different personalities, all these different nationalities, all the different backgrounds. And I really would like to reach out to them. And I want to do things good for them. And then I also would like to take care of myself as well. So what are like some of the rules of engagement? Let's just go back to that part because I'd like to hear more about that.
I would say if you know your team well, ask them, you know, and you know their preferences. For example, the team I work with, I know who are the extroverts and I know who are the introverts. And I'm generally more in contact. I create more of a interaction dynamic with the extroverts because that allows them to share. And that allows them to vent, because extroverts, like myself, we are also good on venting. It's not just talking. So we talk, we vent. We're all out there in a concert for everyone to hear. So you engage them more often, okay? If there is need, you know, obviously you have to take into consideration also your own limitations. You can't just engage with people all day long and not get your work done. But try to engage them as much as possible. And for the extroverts, for example, create like group meetings, okay? It doesn't have to be just one-on-one with you, you know? We're all a team, we work in team. It's not like a binary thing, me and you kind of deal. It's you're working in a team with a group of people. So create opportunities for everybody to come in, for extroverts to express themselves more, and also for the introverts to hear out what's happening, because they don't need to miss out just because they don't like to speak a lot, but you still want to include them in that circle of connection. So you can have group meetings, and you know, it doesn't have to be mandatory for everyone to speak, but they can hear and they can be there and express themselves when they feel comfortable doing it. But it gives the, you know, extroverts the opportunity to share, and it gives the introverts the opportunity to stay in the loop. So creating that social dynamic is very important. That's why we talked about creating that social hour, where we're not just talking about work, but we're just trying to stay interconnected with the organization, with the people who work there, for people to talk and for people to listen and, you know, engage as much as they're comfortable with.
And also an introvert probably have a difficult time expressing how they feel. So those are the people you probably want to check in more with them, because they're very private individuals. They're individuals that don't talk anyways. I mean, extrovert, we call it word diarrhea. We just say whatever is on our mind. It doesn't matter. You know, we just express. And I think introvert, they need to feel a little bit more safer and be able to express more of their feelings. So, you know, instead of having the extrovert maybe take over the conversation, is having a lot more check-in with the introvert. And, you know, introverts are not going to talk in a big group like that. So maybe you can schedule one-on-one times with those individuals and give them some space privately to talk. Sometimes people don't want to really talk about what's going on with them because they feel like they're the only ones, or maybe they're not strong enough and they feel weak. And, you know, it's good to have them be able to express it in a more private setting.
Yeah, of course, of course. So do you think that this, what we're going through, it will definitely shift a lot of things in the world. So there's definitely light at the end of the tunnel. But after we pass through the tunnel, do you think that working from home will be more common? Do you think that it will be a new norm? Do you think that we're going to say goodbye to the offices? I really would like to hear your comments about that.
I personally don't think we're going to say goodbye to offices, but I think there are going to be many conversations to be had going ahead. It depends on the experience of each organization, and honestly depends on the type of work that's being done. There are some works that can be done remotely, and I think more and more organizations understanding that this could be done, a lot of work could be done remotely, but there are industries that can't, you know, if you're in healthcare or if you're in like hospitality industry, some job aspects can be done remotely, but others they need to stay, you know, we need the brick and mortar buildings because we can't do away with those. But there is going to be a lot of conversations about work-life balance, work-life harmony, and a lot of people are going to demand more on the employee side. That's my kind of hunch, because if this could be done and you made us do it when you needed to, so this could be done when we need it. This is not as much of a problem, I think, in Kuwait, for example, childcare issues, but in the States where I'm from, it's a big issue. And, you know, if your kid's home from school and there's no one to watch it, you either have to miss a day of work or so on. So such working instances where you can remotely connect, it will become more of a norm than an exception or a privilege. And that's where I think to go. But I think organizations as we know it are going to go through a shift, like a big shift after this.
You know, I think for me, I feel like, you know, coronavirus has been, I think it has really offered something positive for us. I don't think that it has really become all negative, despite the fact that it might have impacted us in a certain way, or it's impacting some people with their jobs or the security of their jobs. I think one thing it has taught us is that we do have resilience, and human beings are resilient, and that we can actually operate in whatever condition if we're put into that situation. And maybe we minimized virtual understanding, or minimized how much we can really do in virtually. I think people aren't going to have a different, I mean, at least in my psychological perspective, I think people are going to have, they're going to be afraid to go out. Some people are going to have this social distancing more often, and maybe even concern about, you know, who they can be. I think the idea of social gathering might have changed, but it's also, you know, it can't be all bad. I think it has taught us certain skills that we didn't have. I mean, who would have known I know how to teach online? To be honest, I'm non-IT savvy, zero, if you don't believe me. I know how to use my phone, and that's about it. I mean, in the class, I just have PowerPoint. I mean, it just, for me, I feel like, wow, it has really helped me learn a new skill. I've been teaching forever, and it just made me offer something new. It has also taught me that I can do a lot of things virtual, like do teletherapy. And so I think people really, they're going to be able to have a different understanding, but also it's teaching people how to really question what they're doing right now. Maybe they need to go into a different job. I mean, can you imagine how many people can get workshops now? You can, if there was a skill that you wanted to do, or you know, a paper you wanted to write, or anything, this is the time. And so you can utilize this time and be very productive. And it teaches you that, you know, I could be productive even under these, like, you know, crisis, global pandemic. Let's hear from other people. What do they think? What do you think is going to change when are people going to be different? Do you think we'll go back to the same thing?
Anybody would like to join? We can unmute you.
Or they can write. Yeah. So how many of you
you have been covering a lot, so that's probably everybody's quiet.
How many of you think?
Hi, everybody.
Hi,
Well,
Mary.
you know, I've been absorbing all you're saying, and of course, these are all thoughts that I know I've reflected on. But I appreciate your kind of recapping and summarizing. You know, I think what a lot of us have been contemplating and so forth. And I do think it's going to make a huge impact. But I don't know what that impact is. But I know for myself, because I do live by myself, and in the past I have been self-employed. So it's kind of not something that's totally unfamiliar. And I remember when I did work out of my home that I did like going out and seeing people and so forth. So this is not a very coherent thing. Let me just tell you that up front right now. But I think, you know, so I do like being in the, of course I like being in the classroom. Arezou is my manager, thanks be to God. and I'm part of that Diwania, and so, you know, we pop in and out of the Diwania, and it's really a beautiful thing. And but, you know, on my side, I will have to tell you, and on my side, I should say, I have to tell you that this has been my chance to, I feel like it's a gift from God. I don't want to go down on this other tangent, but it's been a real time to get into touch with yourself, and not all the busyness, and not the frivolous shopping, and not all the other things. It's about reprioritizing, like, the significant things in your life and the people, and, you know, all those kinds of things. And, you know, just, I know on my side too, I've had a chance to reach out to friends more, and, you know, thank God for WhatsApp and all. I mean, if this had happened prior to internet, it would have been a totally different experience, you know. But yeah, and I don't know about other people. I'm just engaged also in a lot of other personal pursuits that I would normally not be able to, just interior life and things like that. So I'm just sharing, you know, that it hasn't been all bad. I live right across the street from one of these coronavirus hotels. So I've been a little bit timid about actually walking in front of them. So, you know, because I'm not, you know, I don't know about this virus, how it's spreading. But anyway, I've got my car and I can cruise down a bit. I showed Arezou a little vid I made of me walking on the beach, not about that, but about, you know, to share with our students, just the content. So at any rate, all this is to say is that I think that there is a silver lining to it. I'm halfway between an extrovert and I've become more of an introvert living in Kuwait. I used to be a 9 out of 10 extrovert, and now I'm about a 5. You know, I see this in my own personal development. So I'm not totally unhappy about being at home, you know, like I think it's just getting down deep into who you are and just accepting a life, the changes that come about, you know, and being able to deal with, I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty, you know, for sure, tons of uncertainty. And one thing I'll finish with this, that I feel so grateful, and I think ours, we got our deposit today, right?
Yes.
And
Hallelujah.
Like hallelujah, amen. And so, you know, we're very blessed. I also want to just say that we are very blessed by being in Kuwait. I don't know that I would really want to be in the States right now. I'm an American also, and I don't know. Like, I'm not casting any political comments in that vein, but I will say that I feel taken care of here. I don't know where it's going. I hope that, you know, maybe we might have even tighter lockdowns, but at least I feel the uncertainty of having a job. I don't know. I hope, Arezou, that we're staying fairly certain on that score. And,
Well, so far so good. I'd say so far so good. I haven't heard to the contrary.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, everyone. So I think it is time to say goodbye to everyone. I would like to thank you, Dr. Juliet and Dr. Arezou. I don't know the rest of the participants, but I have certainly learned many things, and you have inspired me on many other things. And also thank you, ABCK, for allowing us to be here, and hope to see everyone soon, either face-to-face or virtually. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.